Hello everybody, Peter Soda here from SlashFilm.com. I'm here with Jermaine, Angie, and Russ. We just saw our final presentation of 2012 Comic-Con International, and that is the Marvel presentation. Basically, it was focused on Iron Man 3.
Phase 2 begins now. They did a whole thing, and they said this is Phase 2 begins now. They dropped a bunch of news on them, so you can see on the site, Thor 2, Cap 2, this, and Edgar Wright. What is Edgar Wright doing here? He said he was in London. No, Edgar Wright came with the test footage that we reported on last week about Ant-Man. And we were sort of rumored that it was going to happen, but they showed it.
It was footage shot 2 weeks ago. The effects were almost non-existent.
Yeah, but, just knowing a little bit of the Ant-Man from the Ultimates, I was very excited to see how you could do it. How do you pull off a man who's this big? And Edgar Wright does it with some style and some humor. The scene, it looks like the Matrix. There's a big hallway with two, agents there with the things, and camera pulls back.
Synchronized gum chewing.
Yeah.
Which had everyone laughing.
Yeah, and then it pulls through this grate, and there's a little man sitting behind the grate, sort of a forced perspective thing. He jumps through, and he looks like, for the camera is, that he's in real size, and he's running, and then you cut back, and there's nothing because he's this big. And then it cuts back, and he's running again, and then he pops up into real size, so that he sees them.
Or they see
him. They start shooting. He jumps down again. He jumps up on the gun, runs up on the gun, jumps, super punch, knocks this guy slow motion, gets big again, gets up, flips the guy. It was like, holy crap! And it was rough. It was rough. There was a lot of blue screen and little composites. But
but this footage really showcased what you could do with a guy with disabilities.
So cool.
Anybody that's like Ant-Man movie, if you saw this, you're like, oh, I get it. And especially if it was in 3D and you had those kind of things, it could be really cool.
It's kind of suddenly you look at the character, and it's if you haven't thought much about the character before, it's not just this guy can shrink. It's essentially what if you can effectively become almost invisible. But then you couple that with the small size, and that gives you access to all sorts of different things and the power. And I mean, just this tiny clip really showed that A, there's something to be done with the character, and B, that Edgar Wright is very, very likely the man to do it, because the tone here was great. There was a lot of humor. The costume looked good, and this was just the rough stuff.
Yeah.
So
it was just a small taste, but he brought so much humor and energy to it, and it automatically just made me want to watch it.
We immediately asked about the moderator immediately asked about the costume. Is this final? And he said it's pretty close to final. They wanted to keep it realistic, sort of grounded in this Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Iron Man and all these things. They didn't say that specifically, it's what they inferred. And for me, it sort of looked like I described it sort of like a G.I. Joe exoskeleton. I don't know, how would you guys describe it? I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like sort of a weird, like a flight suit on steroids sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's got kind of an elaborate mask. There's a respirator sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've ever seen the classic Ant-Man images, some of which we've used to illustrate stories on the site before, it's that, but coupled with that sort of vaguely real world approach that Marvel's been doing all along with non-Asgardian characters.
Right. And Edgar Wright said, he's like, you want to see it again? And we said yes, and he said no, and he got up and left. And then, which was great, because it's not done.
And that left us wondering, is this in development? Is there a green light for this movie at some point?
When is this movie coming?
We don't know who is playing Ant-Man. We don't know who is in the suit. I mean,
we don't know if they've done that
yet. We don't know anything. So we don't have a casting name.
I think it was Simon Pegg.
Yeah, very could have been. I don't know. He said the person was. Didn't he say the person who was in the suit had been around was there? But it's hard to tell what he was joking.
Yeah,
He's been lying all week anyway. So
exactly.
But the point is, details on this are very unclear. We got nothing. We got no release date. We got no cast. We got no green light.
But we do know that Edgar Wright is doing a movie for Universal,
The World's End, and that shoots in September. And he told us a couple weeks or months ago that he might potentially shoot that and some of Ant-Man this year.
But he already shot some of Ant-Man.
But he already shot some of Ant-Man, so there you go. Exactly. So that's a good point. So we don't know, but we know the Marvel Universe now is set through 2014.
Yeah.
We assume Avengers 2 is going to come after that. But the first movie of this Phase 2 is Iron Man 3, which is the bulk of the panel.
You know what, though? Avengers might not be the next film. There might be one film before.
It could be Ant-Man and then Avengers 2.
Yeah. Anyways, watch the site for more news on that. Iron Man 3 We got to see a what would you call it?
2.5 minute sort of super trailer. I guess that's all they've been showing these super trailers. I keep saying super trailer, but that's what it is. It's not like it starts off with this full scene and then it goes to the logo and it starts off with Tony Stark, Tony Starky. And he's got all his Iron Man things. He goes about to meet your big brother, and he pops like this, like a little Spider-Man pose, and eventually, boom, the glove comes on, and then all the pieces are popping on like magnets, right?
Flying from across
the room.
But
and
propelling with like rockets to,
And it doesn't always work out.
it doesn't
so
always
well.
work out.
Like,
They're smashing
he's
everywhere.
like ducking and like it's like hitting him in the crotch. And it's funny.
It was really cool, yeah.
And the great thing about the panel and about the footage was we see Jon Favreau, who returns and who on the panel talked a lot about the fact that it was really great to finally get to play the character, not just have 5 minutes at the end of the day to quickly shoot a scene and then have to move back to directing the movie and everything. But we got to see Shane Black, who is the writer of Lethal Weapon and who is the writer-director of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which starred Robert Downey Jr., which helped Jon Favreau cast Downey in Iron Man, and now Shane Black is directing Iron Man 3, and
it's all circular.
It's a big circular thing, but Shane Black is a smart guy, he's a funny guy, but he's also very no bullshit and very real, and that seemed to come across on the panel and in the footage, and the stuff that we saw looked really, really solid, and it seemed like if after Iron Man 2 you were a little like, I don't know if I need to see a third one, this is pretty convincing stuff.
Go for it.
The only other, we should talk about two other things that we saw in the footage.
Yes.
And
One
of them is Stark's Malibu apartment or house or whatever you want to call it getting totally destroyed.
Well, the whole trailer is the second half after the little plaything is done with this voiceover that we find is revealed at the end is Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin. This is finally confirmed.
Yeah, if there was any doubt, now.
Yeah. When Shane Black said he's the Mandarin and they showed pictures of him as the Mandarin, we found he's Mandarin. But he does this whole thing about how heroes aren't real, and he's giving this speech in I don't know what context, but it's set in voiceover. We see the whole beach house comes crumbling down, and we see shots of all the new characters and
Guy
Pearce and James Badge Dale. We see Rebecca Hall, and also this is jumping back in this footage, but they talk about how Happy Hogan's mom or grandma lives in New York, and a year ago she had to jump out her window because she saw a big snake thing come through when you were hanging out with the Super Friends, and he's like, we took care of that, So that was a little Avengers tease that we're in the same universe still, guys.
Yeah, but the cool thing is we see his armor get destroyed. I'm not exactly sure what's destroying him. His house gets destroyed, and he goes with the house into the ocean. Iron Man is sunk.
Yeah, and he's got this new suit that you probably saw the photos of. They're sort of the extremis, sort of. I guess we're calling it the Mark 8 with the gold
The more gold one.
Yeah, and I mean it looked much more in line of Iron Man 1 than Iron Man 2. Well, Iron Man 2 the trailers look good too, but I mean this looked really cool.
For me, it looked fun, but it looked more of the same. There was nothing really surprising or shocking.
But they're only halfway through shooting. And then we have this trailer that they could release on Ryan right now and get it would.
You know what's weird though? At the panel, Shane talked about how the third movie is a hard movie to make. You want to make it not a third episode. You want to make it the conclusion of a trilogy and tie it into the beginning. But they never really explain how that.
But Mandarin is the ultimate villain. Is Iron Man's ultimate villain? They saved that for the third movie.
Right.
They're very big. He said something about you have to hit bottom so that you can rise back up, and that kind of thing.
Sounds like that.
And it's also worth noting that the question was put to Downey as to whether or not he will sign for more movies, because his contract is up after Iron Man 3, and there was a little discussion there that was basically it made it sound like he would be open to consider it
he said
if Marvel would be open
pay
to pay him a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. But
maybe this is his last. Probably not, but it might be his last as a leading character. I can see Downey not wanting to do this for the rest of his life, despite the fact that he clearly has fun at events like this one.
Yeah,
whether he has
he-
fun on a daily
And
basis, I
he
don't
is
know.
Tony Stark as Shane Black said.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and he ran down from the back to some Luther Vandross, I think, and the camera was following him, and he was playing to the camera. And he is Tony Stark.
He danced through Hall H like a superstar, which he
is.
is.
Yeah.
And he owned the room, and it's fun after all the spectacle of the Warner Brothers panel, which was this big gigantic thing, and then Marvel comes in and is like, you know, we got this. Actually, we know what we're doing
Yeah,
here.
they did a
I,
great
And it did
don't
very
think-
well.
Yeah, I don't think anybody came out of that presentation saying, "Oh, that looks like." I mean, it was a fun panel. It was fun footage.
Lot of
but
news.
of course, the Iron Man 2 looked fun when we were in there. So
Right.
That's
who
the
knows?
problem with everything at Comic Con, though. I mean, like, you can make anything look good for 2 minutes, so.
That's
we'll
true.
see.
Yeah,
And
it's hard to say.
it's absolutely true. But this is like about the
Yeah,
end of
so,
the, end
so,
of the Comic Con
so-
footage.
someone was retweeting today because everybody was saying, holy shit, with the Pacific Rim footage, and someone retweeted a screenshot of everybody saying Sucker Punch, holy shit,
Yep.
Sucker Punch, I go from Comic Con last year.
I can go on board saying that I never really liked Sucker Punch footage, so I'm safe there.
I loved it.
Oh,
I loved it. I still think that the action scenes in that are fun. The movie, not so much.
The
but
movie's
it's
terrible.
action-
Anyway, that's what's the
I thought that was a great note to end our Comic Con on.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Or, well,
Sucker
Saturday
Punch.
anyway.
But
So thanks for tuning in and finding our impressions of this footage, but it doesn't really matter because it could mean nothing.
nothing.
Oh, I didn't see like.
That's suddenly we're back to Man of Steel. It's
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks very much.